Welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co-host J.R. Stewart.
And good evening, everyone. I am your co host, Tommy Duncan. It is Wednesday night again, Jimmy.
Yes, it is. Want to give a big shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share the information. Also, hit the notification button. So if you're not here on Wednesday night to watch us live, you'll be notified after the show is uploaded that a new show has been uploaded. And with that being said, Tom, it seems like we're going to finish our conversation from last week going over these 22 principles.
All right, yeah, and for those who were not here last week, we started out last week talking about principles for developing and raising young black men. It is one of the most strategic issues within our community that we've had to deal with, Jimmy. And we went through 11 principles. And they're not all, heart requirements every day, but 11 things off the top that we have to be mindful of in developing and growing a nation of warriors, young men. And we're going to continue and finish that conversation today, Jimmy. And we've got a little twist on the title today. Broken men come from broken boys. Principles of raising strong black men. And whether you are a dual parent household,
All right.
whether you are a mother raising children and you have some boy children or young men, or whether you are a father for that matter who's also raising young men, we're going to kind of talk through some of the principles that we have to be mindful of to ensure that our future is in good hands, Jimmy. But also, we would be remiss if we did not talk about some of the vectors that have been used that have taken down a lot of our young men and our mature men, and how we build a hedge around that so that we can ensure that we have a very strong cadre of men to lead this country throughout the next generation and the next millennium for that matter.
Well, and the most important thing, Tom, is that we're not just throwing out a lot of rhetoric. I mean, these are things that we have lived through, our personal experiences. So, hopefully that adds a little more weight behind our words, that we're not just saying, do as we say and not as we do. We're trying to share our own personal lives and mistakes and things that we've learned along the way, hopefully so the next generation coming up doesn't have to learn the hard way. So, with that being said, Tom, let's just jump right in like we do it. And I think we're going to pick up with principle number 12.
Right, and before we get into this, I have one of our listeners who is saying that they cannot hear me on my side. I believe they can hear you, but for whatever reason, they may not be able to hear me. So let's make sure. Say, can't hear Tommy's voice, can't hear. Okay, so there are two people who are saying that they cannot hear me,
Hmm.
and they can hear your side, but they cannot hear my side. So let's make sure we have a spell check
Yeah. Okay.
to make sure there isn't anything missing. And if I need to, I can take my earbuds out. I just want to make sure I get a clear image.
No, that's Okay. Let's check our Google Meet settings here and see.
Okay. So, folks, we do apologize for the inconvenience, but we're going to have Jimmy, our technology guru, to make sure he checks all of our settings to see if there's anything missing.
Okay. Well, I hear you just fine there.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I think we hear each other just fine. And
Yeah, so we have two people. So if we're out, if those who are still listening, could you verify whether you can hear me? Well, if they can't hear me, they will. The only way they'll be able to respond to this is if they can hear me. But if they can't hear me, obviously we won't be seeing anything.
that is true.
Okay, so we need to, let me see. I'm going to write something here.
Well,
All right.
okay. Hopefully they can hear you now.
Okay, so Jimmy is clear, but I am barely audible. So otherwise, they can hear me. They can barely hear me, but they can hear you very clearly.
Okay, let me go through and match up. Make sure we're using all the same sound devices. Okay, 14. I hate to think it's going to be a one-sided conversation, Tom. Are you there?
All right, I am here, and we will see if dropping off and getting back on now. I do see three windows now,
Oh, yes.
myself, you, and one to see me.
Well, actually, you're on twice. Your other one's still frozen.
Okay, let me get off of this other one and see if that helps any.
Okay.
Okay, so that took me off, and let's see if people can hear me now. I'm hoping people can hear. All right, give me just a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and type in the link that you sent me. Just heard Tommy better, okay? So it looks like they may be able to hear me.
Okay. Well, with that being said, since we've lost a little time, we apologize for the sound technical difficulties.
Okay, all right. Well, I dropped off and got back on, so I guess whatever it is, it cleared it up, and it
Okay.
looks like they can hear me now. All
Okay.
right, folks. So let's go ahead and move forward with our show. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but our subtitle and our premise for this show are principles for raising young black men, because the key is that broken men come from broken boys, and we've got to focus on
Yes, we do.
what it is we have to make sure. So before we get started, there are a couple of ways that you can communicate with us. First, you can of course chat with us. There are a few of you who are chatting with us already. Thank you very much, Brother Caver. Brother Caver, we see you out there. We hear you out there. We appreciate you joining. And Miss Chas, we appreciate you joining us as well. And it looks like we are good to go. So we'll look forward to hearing from you. Also, you may call in. Our number is 972 497 2280. That is 972 497 2280. All right, let's get the ball moving. So let's kind of talk through some of the principles, and we'll kind of start off where we left off. I think the 12th principles, we went through 11 principles last week. The
Right.
12th principle for this week is a man must have a plan. A
Yes.
man must have a plan. So let's talk a bit about this, Jimmy. I mean,
Sure.
this not only goes for your personal life, but the relationships that you are in as well. A man doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have a vision. He's not going anywhere. The question is, who else is going to follow him? So let's kind of let's unpack this a little bit, Jimmy. I'll let you speak
Sure.
for a minute.
And this message is twofold, Tom. It's not just for our young boys who are transitioning to manhood. It's also for the mothers out there, for women out there. Um, I often tell women that if you're with someone and if you have to ask him where this relationship is going, if he doesn't have a plan that he can articulate to you, then your relationship is not going anywhere. And it's best to get out or settle for going nowhere. But young boys have to be taught, Tom, that they have to lead. In order to lead, means you have to have a plan. And I'm not just saying for the predators out there who know that they can, espouse almost any nonsense to get a woman to believe them, but really have no intention whatsoever on acting on any of the things that they throw out there about their dreams and aspiration. We want our young boys to be able to develop real plans for their lives and actually work towards those goals. When you meet a young lady and you're sharing your vision and your for life and your goals for life, and you can speak about these things passionately, where she believes in what you're saying, and if she decides to buy into that plan, Tom, now you have a potential for a partner in life, a ride or die person to help you with that. But if she doesn't buy into it or believe, Tom, or you don't have one, then you're really setting yourself up for failure. So we don't want our young boys to be failures in life. So we need to teach them how to plan for life, plan for success, and how to overcome their shortcomings when they fall short. That don't mean you give up on the
I would agree,
plan.
Jimmy.
That just means you have to regroup. So a lot of the books that we have read, Tom, and talked about in the past, the habits of successful people, they all the centerpiece of all those books and theories is to have a plan in life, a plan that you can break
Yeah,
down
Jimmy, and I think
in the steps
yeah, yeah,
that
I
you
would
can
agree.
follow. So go ahead.
And Jimmy, the other thing is you have to be able to discriminate between those who are just talking the talk and those who
Yes.
are walking the walk. And this is especially for the women out there, and especially for mature women who know the difference. I mean, there are a lot of guys out there, and Jimmy's kind of spoken to this before. We've talked about this
I
several
was
times. There's a
one of
lot of
them,
guys who
Tom,
have
so I know personally.
there's a lot of guys who talk a good talk and they have a lot of game out there, but when it comes to actual the doing part, I mean that's the key. And you, I mean, less talk and more walk. But the key is just like personally and professionally, you have a 5 year plan, you have a 10 year plan. For those women who are out there, you may be dating a young man. If he is not speaking to Jimmy's point to where you're going in your relationship together, but more importantly, where he is going in his life, how he is
Right.
going to get there, and more importantly, where you fit into that equation. Then that's something that if you're not having a conversation about, you need to be having a conversation about. And if he is kind of bumbling over that, then you may have
Cut
a
him,
problem
Tom.
that you need to
Cut him
absolutely.
out. Cut him out your
Well,
life.
well, the question is this, Jimmy. If you've never had that in your life and you don't know what you don't know, how do you, as a mother, as a father, or as someone who is mentoring or
Right.
raising a young boy to be a man, how do you develop that in a young man? Because that isn't something that just comes. I mean, quite frankly, let's be very clear. You grow up, you play, you go to school, you tell what the teacher does you to do, tell the teacher tells you to do, you do what your parents tell you to do, but a lot of times they don't tell you where are you going and why, other than going to the college or going to military or getting a job after you get 18 years old because you're getting out of this house.
Correct.
How do you develop that in young men? How do they
So,
know that
so,
if
so,
nobody's
so,
teaching
Tom,
them that?
getting out of the house is the parents' plan. That shouldn't be the only plan that you share with your children. Helping them set
Right.
goals for themselves and achieving those goals. Don't allow them to start something and quit. Don't allow your child to come home with an excuse as to why they're dropping off the team or getting out of the club or have given up on going to college or doing something great in life because things have gotten a little rough. You have to encourage them to stay in there, stick with the plan, change things up, make your adjustments on the short term so you can achieve the long term. And we definitely have to teach this to our young boys because unfortunately, Tom, like you said, when they grow up, and they learn how to lie and fake it. There are a lot of women who are susceptible, who want to believe when you tell them about all these great things you have in life. You're going to the moon. I'm going to build a spaceship. I'm going to bring back some moon rocks. And then 3 months into the relationship, when she asks you, hey, how about that rocket? I haven't seen you build on anything. And now you want to get mad because she's throwing it back in your face. But these are the things you said you were going to do in life. And when she calls you on it, then you're ready to get out of the relationship and go fool the next woman. So, women, I would say let's teach our children, but more importantly, let's show them. If you're in a relationship and your children see this relationship, you shouldn't have to go to a guy and ask him where his relationship is going. If he doesn't articulate to you on a regular basis, hey, here's the plan for us. This is my plan for you and for us in life. Then he hadn't really thought about you and he doesn't have a plan. And you don't want to raise your children, especially your young boys, around that kind of man. So if you have that in your life, I would say cut that cancer as soon as possible. Don't even keep it around and try to fix it because there is no fix for that. If he's not thinking about you long term, he's not thinking about you long term. That's the reality.
I would I would agree. And also, I mean, this is for we're talking to young women. We're also talking to the mothers who are
Yes.
raising them as well.
And for the fathers, fathers,
Keep
teach your boys to be honest in life. Nothing wrong with sharing your
mm,
goals and dreams, but be honest about it. You don't have to lie about it to try to impress someone. Either impress an employer, impress your friend, or to impress the woman that you're trying to incorporate into your life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
So again, for those young ladies who are out there, if he's not showing you where he's going, you got a problem.
Cut him, Tom.
Mothers out there, you need to make sure that you have a constructive male role model,
Yes.
male role model, or a father figure if the father is not already in his life. Now, if he's got a father figure and he's not doing these things, that's another conversation. But you need to make sure that you have men around your sons or the young males in your life that are teaching them how to develop vision and teaching them how to be focused and to deal with obstacles and circumstances and fear. And that, quite frankly, Jimmy, gets us to the second thing that we're going to talk about is that a
Okay.
man will know fear, but he still must function. He is going to know
Correct.
fear. He is going to know obstacles. He is going to deal with falling on his butt every now and again, but he still has to function and he has to perform through the pressure. He has to function through the fear. There is no person, there is no man in particular, there is no person that's living that's not had to deal with fear, that's not had to deal with pressure, that's not had to deal with circumstances.
Right.
And the reality of it is, the earlier that you learn, Jimmy, that you're going to have to perform through the pressure. And then we're not just talking about on a basketball court or on a football field, but we're talking about in life,
In
personal life.
life,
We're
right.
talking about academically. We're talking about personally. We're talking about in your career, dealing with almost absolutely insurmountable circumstances, but having the courage to stand up and to perform through the fear, even if you don't reach your ultimate goal, to give your best, your absolute best, in spite of the circumstances.
Well, Tom, that's absolutely true, and this is why prayer is so important to help you get through life when life becomes difficult. You need someone by your side, and so I pray daily, and that helps me get through situations. I know that I don't always get through them on my own, that there's a higher power that is looking out for me and that has helped me get through some difficult situations. But Tom, you're right. Everyone's going to face very difficult situations in life, things that will cause you to be very fearful to take the next step forward. And but fear has a way of crippling your lifetime in ways that sabotage your career, your love life, mentally, emotionally. If you don't confront your fears, and it's not easy to do, but I think spiritually, if you pray, that would help. But also having people around you who can encourage you. But see, that's another thing, Tom. You have to be honest about what your fears are. You can't give the impression to everyone that you're on top of the world and then everything is okay, but then behind the scenes you're depressed, eating Ben and Jerry every night, and weigh 350 pounds. So the two can't coincide together. You can't be dishonest in life and expect to deal with your fears. You have to be willing to let people help you. So it's okay to say, "Hey, I have a problem. I'm afraid of this. I don't want to be heartbroken again. I'm afraid of success. I'm afraid to go ask for that promotion, even though I deserve it." Things like this. That will hold you back in life if you don't deal with them. So
Now,
yeah, overcoming fear, Tom, is a big one. Because fear will stop you in your tracks. If you believe you can't walk around the block, you won't leave your neighborhood. So,
I would agree,
and
Jimmy.
if you're trying to get across town or to another part of the country and can't leave your neighborhood, then you have problems.
I would agree, Jimmy. And I think the key here for those fathers, those mothers, and other folks, even grandparents, because a lot of grandparents are raising grandchildren nowadays,
Yes,
is
big
that you
mom and them.
cannot give, yeah, you cannot make it an option for the young person in your life to quit. Every time
Right.
something gets difficult, every time they get afraid, they make a commitment, they break a commitment, and you enable them to quit every time something gets a little bit hard, every time they
You
overcome an
pamper them.
obstacle,
You let
just in
them
case.
quit. Yes.
Absolutely. Exactly, absolutely. Just because there's a bully in front of them, whether that bully is literally or figuratively in their face. The key thing is not allowing your the young man in your life, or even the adult man, this could be a grown man in your life, to quit. When you make
Correct.
a commitment, follow through. You may not reach all of your specific goals, but the earlier in life you teach that young man or that adult for that matter to focus and follow through on their commitments, the more character they're going to build throughout life. And that is the key when you start dealing with overcoming fear, or dealing with fear in spite of not quitting, continuing to follow through. And that goes back to our very first principle. God being the source of your strength.
Yes.
Because when you have God as the source of your strength, which is number one, then regardless of what the fear is, you know you have something that is bigger than whatever it is you're fearing. And that is what has to give you the strength to continue to follow through. And you will always learn the lesson that needs to be learned by whatever it is you're dealing with.
And let's respond to Brother Carver, and then we're going to move on. I think he's asking what are some of the common fears most men face. And Tom, I think I'll take a stab at that. Being leaders and personal responsibility, and being responsible for a family, a wife and children, which in today's world, Tom, a huge financial cost when you're talking about taking on the responsibility of a family. But I would say this: the most challenging thing that you would do in life and the most rewarding thing that you would do in life is to one, have a woman in your life that you can keep happy, and two, the responsibility of leading and taking care of family. It will make you so much better of a man when you have those entities in your life than you are when you don't have them. Because you know what, Tom, when you have a family and have responsibilities, you can't walk into the job and say, I'm tired of this environment and I'm leaving. You can't do irresponsible things when you have other people counting on you. And then you have to walk the walk when you have people looking up to you and value what you say, especially with young kids. So you have to make adjustments in life. Having children, a family, having a wife if you're a young man, or having a husband if you're a young lady, can be very rewarding if you do it correctly. And the Bible, to me, Tom,
Absolutely.
is always the very first place to go and adopt those principles. And I promise you this, because I had to make that same choice in my early 40s. I'm going to adopt these principles. Either the Bible is lying to me or it's telling the truth. And so far, when I've adopted those principles, Tom, of leading my household, being responsible, making sure that everyone in my household is safe and secure, my wife is so much better as a woman when she's safe and secure, and I have to deal with her insecurities. And so all the things that we normally associate, the negatives, I promise you, as the Bible said, those blemishes would be cleared up, the wrinkle lines would become straight, and what? She would become a perfect creation for you if you
Absolutely.
do it correctly.
Absolutely, Jimmy. Absolutely, Jimmy. And I mean, and going straight to the point, the biggest fear is the fear of failure, Jimmy, whatever
Yes,
capacity that happens to be, whether that be in marriage, whether that be in your career, whether that be taking additional responsibility, whether that's even, taking, having children or being a father, which I think, unfortunately, quiet as it's kept, is one of the biggest failures of most men,
yes, it
is
is, T.
possibly being a failure as a father. And
Yes,
unfortunately, talking to you sisters, that is one of the reasons why unfortunately we don't have the men that we should have in our households, raising our young boys and raising our young girls, because you have a lot of boys who procreated children, but they weren't men,
man,
and they
boys.
were absolutely, and they were afraid of being a failure as a father. And that's probably the most catastrophic thing that we're dealing with today. But the reality of it is, you have to be accountable, Jimmy, at the end of the day. I mean, the reality of it is, this is how broken boys become broken men, is because
Yes,
of the lack of a responsible father.
correct.
The lack of a responsible father.
I agree
Let's continue to go
100%,
on because we're
Tom.
almost halfway through the show,
Okay.
and we've not even got to half of the next one. A man will always do his best. A man will always do his best. So let's unpack that literally. I mean, the best is relative, and the reality of it is, all of us have a specific bar in terms of what we're doing at a performance level in every aspect of our life. But when we talk about doing our best, we're really only talking about besting ourselves, our own best.
Correct.
The reality of it is, most of us are comparing ourselves to other people, which ultimately will, Jimmy, either one, put us in a position where we are literally never going to achieve our best because we're comparing ourselves to other people with different levels of expertise, different levels of talent. And if we continue to really compare ourselves to others, we will really never reach our greatest heights or never really reach our best because we're continually comparing ourselves to other folks.
Sure.
And again, that is part of a fear of failure that we were just talking about.
Right. And so Tom, we have to teach our young men, our young boys, as they transition to manhood, one, that it's okay to be honest. You can be brutally honest. about yourself. You don't have anything to hide. I'm not saying that everything about you is not going to. There are not going to be some things that may be embarrassing, but once again, so what? You don't have to hide from them. And so when you're dishonest with other people and you're dishonest with yourself, eventually, time it catches up with you. And so sometimes we take shortcuts in life rather than put the hard work in and learn from our failures and learn to overcome these things. We start taking shortcuts. We start faking it rather than putting the work in. So the challenge is that you have to challenge yourself to be the best version of you, not comparing yourself to anyone else. You know that if whether how hard you work and whether you worked hard or not to achieve your goal. And if you can honestly look at yourself and say you did your absolute best and didn't make it, well, you just pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you revise the plan. You don't give up on it. But if you look
Yeah,
deep within yourself and say, yeah, maybe I could have did a little less partying. Maybe I could have put a little more time into it. Yeah, I should have studied a little harder. Maybe I should have started, working a little harder at work to put myself in position to get the promotion or a pay raise. If you can honestly tell yourself that you didn't do everything within you, then go back and do those things. Make the adjustments and just start doing. Don't fake it. Don't
and
start making excuses. Just do it.
I would agree. I would agree, Jimmy. And ultimately, the rubber meets the road on this one by looking at yourself in the mirror. It
Right.
doesn't matter what you tell your parents. It doesn't matter what you tell your wife. It doesn't matter what you tell your girlfriend. The reality, what really counts, and the only thing that really counts, Jimmy, is when you look in the mirror, when you are about to go to sleep at night and you're assessing your day and where you've gone and what you've done, whether it's as a professional, as a father, or whatever that capacity is, knowing that you gave yourself 8 to 16 hours of honest work and
Right.
integrity, and knowing that you did the best that you absolutely could.
Right.
Sometimes you're going to get there, sometimes you're going
You
to
are.
fall short, but the reality of it is, in your heart of hearts, you know whether you've, number one, done the right thing, number two, given your best. And if you can, and if you can say you've done that honestly, you can sleep well. But
Right.
all of us, if we're honest with ourselves, if we know we haven't done that, it's going to be a very difficult sleep that night,
That's true.
regardless of whether absolutely that comes to being prepared, that comes to work, that comes to everything that we do. Let's go to the next one, Jimmy. A man must be able to take the bitter as well as the sweet. A man must be able to take the bitter as well as the sweet. We kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, and it kind of correlates to what we just talked about in terms of doing and giving your absolute best. Whether that's in school, whether that's in life, whether that's in family, things are going to oftentimes not turn out the way we want to, but there are going to be a lot of celebrations as well. And this kind of comes to being what I'll use it as a sports euphemism is, it's real easy to celebrate, when you're winning, when you've met your goals. But Jimmy, when things don't turn out, when you do ultimately make those mistakes, and all of us are going to make those mistakes, being honest with ourselves and being able to assess, where we failed, where we've not given our best, and developing this characteristic in young men, I believe, is paramount to building character and building integrity in our young men, because it teaches them to be honest with themselves, and it teaches them literally, Jimmy, how to take themselves to the next level. Because often, as it has been said, we learn oftentimes more from failure than we do from
Yes, we do,
success in
Tom. We
life.
do a lot more. And we have to understand, our young boys have to understand that success and failure are just faces on the same coin. You can't have one without the other. In fact, some of the most successful people in life, Tom, have been some of the biggest failures. Michael Jordan is probably the goat of basketball, but Michael
Now,
Jordan
he's the
had,
goat of all sports.
that's
He's the goat of
questionable.
all sports.
That's questionable now. Brady can make an argument too now, or even
Well, well,
Hank Aaron. So
no. Brady cannot make an argument because at the end of the day, Michael Jordan is the only one who has won every championship title that he has ever been to. Brady
okay,
cannot say that.
but Brady has more though. But anyway,
He has more.
Jordan
Another
is
story. Another story.
Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, and it hurts me to say that 'cause I'm such a big Magic Johnson fan. But
Yeah, I am
people
too.
people don't realize that also Jordan has missed more shots than every
Yes, sir.
player in the NBA. He also leads that. So with great success comes some failures. Tom, you can't always hit the game-winning shot at the buzzer. But by
Mhm.
taking that shot and not being afraid to take it, you learn how to put yourself in position to be the hero when put in that situation. So we have to understand that them 10,000 hours that it takes to become competent at something, there's a lot of failure in those 10,000 hours, Tom. There's a lot of missed shots, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of missed putts, a lot of misses in life, period. It's not just on the sports world. I mean, this is also in academia, your professional life, period. You're going to have a lot of failures. The thing is that you have to dust yourself off term and learn from your failures. You have to understand why you failed and then do everything you can not to fail again.
Absolutely, Jimmy. And again, for those who have comments or have thoughts on this, feel more than free to text us on the chat line. Of course, we are still open. The line is still open 972 497 2280. 972 497
Yes, we would love to hear
2280.
from you
If you
guys. Give us a call.
have,
Well,
absolutely, absolutely. So let's go ahead and go to the next subject to make sure we can get through everything. A man must have priorities. What does this mean, Jimmy? He has to stand for something or he will fall for anything.
so Tom, repeat that again. You were
Uh-oh,
kind of
Jimmy,
breaking
can
up
you
just
hear
a
me?
little bit. Yes, you were breaking up just a little bit. So repeat it.
A man must have a man must have priorities. A
Oh,
man
priorities in
must
life. Yes. So I'd agree.
have priorities.
Having priorities in life is very important, Tom.
Can you?
So you're breaking up a little bit, but yes, priorities in life is very important for a man, and you have to prioritize the right thing, Tom. You can't put material things. I mean, it's one of the things the Bible teaches you not to be worldly. So you can't put material things in front of important things. Family and being successful at having a family is your top priority as a man. Those are things you should be working towards, and those where you set your. Once you get that, and having your family have safety and protection and the things they need and being responsible should be your top priority at that point. Loving your woman in the right way, raising your children with the right principles and values should be your top priorities in life. Not going to the clubs, not hanging out with the fellas, not drinking your beer and watching the game and want a little peace of mind. Although those things are important too, but they can't be the thing that you put at the top of the consideration list. Are you still with us, Tom? Or can we?
No, I would agree, Jimmy, because
Okay.
at the end of the day, you have to stand. Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Jimmy?
Yes, you're good.
You can hear me?
Hmm.
Okay, good deal. No, I mean, as a man and as a man of principle, you have to stand for something, and it needs to be crystal clear as to what you're for and what you are not for. And I mean, there should be no confusion when you're dealing with someone as to who you are as a person, what your focus are, what your goals are, and everything in your walk in life.
And Tom, you shouldn't be afraid to articulate these things. And if people want to hold you to what you say, then fine. If you're an honest person who believes in what you're doing in life and your walk in life, then you can certainly display your principles and your values, your goals, and put them on your shoulders for all to see. And self-reflection is part of it, but how other people see you, sometimes some feedback from friends and family to say, hey, like for example, Tom, now all my friends allowed me to gain about 70 pounds in life, and no one told me I was fat. So some honest reflection would have been nice if someone had said, "Hey, Jimmy, man, it looks like you're picking up a little weight here. What's going on?" So anyway, getting feedback from people is important, but you get that when you allow people around you to be honest with you, and you're honest with them.
Absolutely, Jimmy. That's a very important thing. The next item, a man knows that there are times when he must stand alone.
Tom, that's that's going to be the hardest one of the hardest lessons for our young men who want to be part of a group because there's protection in numbers. Sometimes you have to stand up
Absolutely.
for what you believe and what you're trying to do in life, regardless of who's with you. And you don't need validation from other people. That's not to say that if you're a young man having a good young woman in your life who believes in you, who's your ride or die, I mean, that's great. But when it comes to peer influence, hey, you don't have to walk by yourself sometimes. If the group is going in your direction, fine. But when you find yourself when they're trying to encourage you to do something that violates what you believe to be true, then don't do it. And you have to be man enough to be able to stand up to that and say, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to jeopardize my life or my future. I'm not going to allow myself to get in silly trouble and dishonor or disgrace my family or myself. So, yes,
You're
getting
right.
people today to step out by themselves, Tom, is going to be tough.
And let's have a real talk about this, and especially to our parents, because a large part of that, you spoke to it, is that, when you're young, you're still developing your identity.
Hmm.
You look for validation through groups. I mean, whether that be being a part of sports, whether that means being a part of the band, the debate club, or whatever it is. And in addition to that, let's be very clear. This comes to peer pressure when it comes to
Yes, it
games,
does.
when it comes to illicit activity. And a lot of times, what our young men have done because they don't have a strong enough identity within their family,
That's true.
within their relationship with God, and quite honestly, within their relationship within themselves, that they allow other people to influence them in ways that they know is wrong, but they're going along to get along. Either one, because they feel protected. Two, they don't want to be isolated from the crowd and basically be told that they're a punk. And
Right.
it has happened, I'm pretty sure, to all of us as we are growing up. But let's talk about the parenting skill side of this, Jimmy. That's why it is so important that our families, our parents who are raising our children, inculcate in them a very strong sense of identity in terms of their family, in terms of their culture, who they are as a human being, understanding their history and culture. That is why you cannot be dependent, Jimmy, on the school system,
You can't.
mass media, or the news to identify who you are. And let's be very clear, this right here is probably part of the most disastrous part of what a lot of our young men have fallen into. We as a culture, and many parents have allowed our children to be raised by mass media, not by family, not by their religious identity, not by their spiritual makeup, but they have been shaped by mass media that is really only concerned about making money. And as a result of that, Jimmy, a lot of our young men have fallen by the wayside, have ended up in prison. Too many of them have died because they didn't have a strong enough identity to be able to walk away from a bad situation because they felt that either number one, they weren't going to be a part of the in crowd, or number two, they weren't going to be protected.
Right. And Tom, this is where the black man has failed the black woman and black children for generations now, since the 60s. And this is something that cannot continue to be our legacy. So we need to get our act together. And I say we, I mean the collective we. I'm not talking about just a few of us here. We need to collectively get our act together, get out of prisons, go back to our homes, to our communities, raise our children correctly, Tom. And we have to make sure our kids understand that it's okay. The cool is not, skipping school, doing drugs, drinking, partying, all that stuff. Cool is having a plan, of being focused, being responsible, and doing the right thing in life, even though it may be extremely hard or unpopular. That is being cool. Not what the streets say is cool, but what families say is cool. So, with that being said, Tom, in the interest of time, what's our next principle?
All right, and we want to thank all of our contributors. K Mac, we appreciate your feedback there. Good to see you online and listen to us. So let's go ahead and go to our next principle. A man must be willing to take a calculated risk in life.
Okay. And Tom, you know what? That was probably one of the most difficult things I had to learn in life. Unfortunately, I learned it and applied it to the wrong thing in life, but that's another story. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another story.
Well,
Um,
I'm not going to ask.
well, I mean, it was more in my dating life when I found myself single after getting divorced.
Gotcha.
I soon realized that the whole dating thing was a numbers game. So you have to take some risk
Gotcha. Okay.
and put up with some
Gotcha.
rejection before you hit a home run. But we have to teach our young men, Tom, that with anything that you're doing in life, there's a calculated risk. You're not always going to get the job that you deserve. You're not always going to get the promotion that you deserve. Hell, you're not always going to get the woman that you deserve. But you take your chances in life, and it don't mean that you don't take the chance because you may fail. So that's not the way to look at it. You take the risk because there's upside, and how much downside there is. I mean, you may only have a 1% chance to succeed, but you know what? If you don't try, you don't even have an opportunity to get that 1%. So, if you don't try, you're definitely going to fail. And if you do try, there's a potential to fail, but there's also a potential to succeed. And the more times you fail and figure out why you failed, you can put yourself in a better position next time to win.
Jimmy, you are absolutely correct on this. And let's be very clear. If you are going to be successful in life, if you are going to be wildly successful in life, there is no option for you not to take
You
calculated
have to
risk.
take risk.
We're not talking about taking jump off the bridge risk. We're talking about taking researched, calculated risks that have massive impact on yourself, your family, and your future. That doesn't mean doing something stupid like robbing a bank
Right.
or doing something that lacks integrity.
Taking your
But
life
but
savings
we're
down
talking,
to the casino. That we ain't
we're
talking about
not
that
talking
kind
about, okay,
of.
thank you very much for clarifying. We don't want nobody getting pissed off at us early. We don't mean taking that kind of risk.
Right.
But Jimmy, when we talk about our professional life, when we're talking about our family life, I mean, whether that's moving your family to a different part of the country because there's something that God is telling you, there's something that your gut is telling you that may be a complete transformation in your personal life or your family life. If you're looking at your career, Jimmy, I mean, you and I can kind of both speak to some of the risks that we've taken.
Right.
Jimmy, if we would have stayed comfortable with where we were, I can't imagine where I would be right now. I can't imagine where you would be right now, but we definitely wouldn't be where we are right
That
now.
is
That
true,
doesn't
Tom.
mean it doesn't mean we haven't achieved all of our goals. But Jimmy, sometimes you have to do the research. You have to be prepared, understand what your plan A, B, C, and D is, Jimmy. Roll the dice and go for it because this again relates back to that fear factor, Jimmy.
Right.
The reason that most people don't take risks is because they are afraid of failure. They are afraid that they will be embarrassed. They're afraid of the reputational damage. But let's be very clear. Jeff Bezos, he took a risk.
Right.
Warren Buffett took a massive risk.
Elon Musk took a
People,
risk.
there you go. Bill Gates. All of these men took massive risks, in their life and have been wildly successful at it. And so the key is for our parents and for those of you who are working with and developing young men, you have to teach young men to take a risk. And the earlier they learn, the key is believing in yourself and being prepared. The earlier you learn to take calculated risks that have the upside, the faster they're going to be successful. And to Jimmy's point a little bit earlier today, someone like a Michael Jordan, who is only known as being the GOAT in basketball, or for me, the GOAT in sports, if he would not have been willing to take the risks, the Michael Jordan
Correct.
that we know, we would not know.
That's true. And Tom, it's important for kids to see this. So it's okay to sit your kids down and explain what's going on in life. You can say, hey, we're looking to possibly open a business, or, mom and dad's going to, take some of our money and invest in a stock holding. And here's the impact. If it doesn't work out, you may not get your allowance for the next couple of months. We may have to make some cuts in life. So you're teaching your children that, look, we're taking a calculated risk, that we've thought about this, we're doing this to better ourselves, and here's the benefit if it works out, here's the impact to us if it doesn't. And so you have some family buy-in, but really what you're doing is you're teaching your children the process. They can see it firsthand. And so when it works out, great. But then there may be times when it doesn't work out. And they understood going in, mom and them said that, hey, if it don't work out, things are going to get a little tight around here. Oh, well, I guess we just have to, to work through it. But once again, even in failure, there's a teaching opportunity there for them to learn.
Absolutely, Jimmy. And that takes us to the next principle that we're going to speak to. A man must know his strengths and his weaknesses. And I know, Jimmy, a person like yourself, you don't really, you don't really speak to any weaknesses, Jimmy. And if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't think
Tom,
you had any
that
weaknesses.
that's why I'm
Every
the
human has to have some weaknesses.
That's why I'm the Jimmy Stewart, man. You're absolutely right, Tom, because I refuse to allow my conscience to accept. Now, I will admit that I did have a food addiction that I've been fighting to
There you
get
go. That's a
over.
weakness, That's a weakness,
Yeah,
Jimmy. That's a
but
weakness, though.
but I have dealt with that, Tom. How? By learning how to fast, which the Bible tells you to do, and I'm much better in life for applying that into my life and dealing with this food addiction and overcoming it. But yes, Tom. Otherwise, I don't allow myself to accept too many downfalls. I try to stay on the positive side. But then when you put
Okay,
yourself
Jimmy.
out there like that, when you introduce yourself, when I talk to people and I tell them I'm the Jimmy Stewart, and I pat myself in the back publicly because I let my light shine, that forces me to walk the walk also. Because trust me, if that light don't shine, somebody who knows me is going to point it out. Somebody,
Absolutely, Jimmy.
so.
But as a teaching moment
Hmm.
for parents and or for other people who are working and developing young men, it is very important that we understand and assess, what our talents and skills are, what our strengths are, what comes easy and natural to us, and then figure out how to manage those areas
Right.
that we aren't probably as good as we'd like to be. I mean, for instance, in school, Jimmy, either folks are very analytical or they have a tendency to be very strong in the arts and sciences. And so at the end of the day, whether it's that, whether you are very good at mathematics, but you may not be great at public speaking,
Correct.
you have to learn at a very early age as to what your strengths are, and quite frankly, how you are going to manage those areas that you would consider to be your weaknesses, and not so that you can lean on it as a weakness, but you can figure out how to develop and strengthen and manage what could possibly be a weakness and leverage that either by someone else or other resources that kind of shore up that weakness, or how you can develop and strengthen those weaknesses. Let's kind of use this moniker, Jimmy. I mean, when you think about some of the greats, I mean, Michael Jordan did not come into the NBA as he left the NBA in terms of his intelligence and his IQ of the game,
Right.
in terms of his range, being an inside player, versus being able to shoot, a three pointer well outside of the range. There are so many different areas that you can develop
Correct.
over time that strengthen you as a person, and really turn your weaknesses into strength, Jimmy. But whether you are applying it into sports, whether you're applying it into your personal life, Jimmy, I mean, I can speak for myself. I can't speak for managing even patience, especially in the type of work that I do. Having patience, especially whether it's dealing with other people, whether not being able to move fast enough, whether it's exercising, running, or whatever it happens to be. But even developing patience for me has been an area that I've had to focus on for years in terms of managing that. Because if you don't develop patience, that can become a weakness for yourself
Correct.
as well.
Well, Tom, the reason you do the inventory because there may be some things in there that you need to succeed to reach your goal. And you're right. If you identify those things, you have to work on them. You have to prioritize them and put them high on the list to deal with because you don't want your goals sabotaged by the fact that let's say you decide to pursue a career that requires you to speak publicly, but you're afraid to speak publicly. So at some point you're going to have to deal with that. But then, you mentioned the basketball greats like Jordan and Magic and others, who came into the league and they were young and physical, but as they got older, they had to get smarter. They had to learn how to shoot free throws, learn to develop an outside range because you can't always be inside the mix, inside the paint, battling with bigger, tougher people who are knocking you on the floor all the time,
Right.
trying to dunk over them. So yeah, you have to get smarter in life. You have to identify your weaknesses and work on them, whatever they are. Just take the time to focus on them and trust me. That will aid you in reaching your goal in life. And then on top of that, Tom, there are sometimes kids are afraid to pursue certain things because hey, I'm not great in math. so I can't really be a mathematician. Well, yes, you can be a mathematician. If you're not great in math, you just have to work on it. Don't accept the fact that you're not good at it, but you can't become good. Just make up your mind that if this is what you want to do, I'm gonna have to work and better my math skills in order to become a mathematician. What's our next principle, T?
Absolutely. All right. Our next principle is a man must use wisdom and understanding. A man must use wisdom and understanding. And that doesn't mean that you know the most. It doesn't mean that you are the so-called smartest person in the
Right.
room. But let's be very clear about this: is being able to apply what you know in the appropriate matter, because there are a lot of smart people who are in jail. There
True,
are a
Tom.
lot of extremely smart people
Geniuses,
who
Tom.
are exactly who are 6 feet deep. But the reality of it is there's a difference between knowing and applying. And so that's when we start talking about using wisdom and understanding throughout life, Jimmy. It's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier, is being able to walk down the hill per
Hmm.
se and get a lot more done than being able to run down the hill
And
and be
trip and
quiet.
fall, yes.
Absolutely. Or more importantly, being able to understand how to use patience, understanding, kindness, being able to deal with people in such a way that you don't have to prove that you are the smartest person in the room in order to get the most done. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the most successful people aren't technically the smartest people in the world, but they understand the soft skills. They understand how to deal with people. They
People skills,
understand how to deal
yes.
with operations. Absolutely. And so the reality of it is they've become very good at a lot of different things, being intelligent in a lot of areas, and therefore they're able to spread their influence a lot more broadly than someone who is focused and technical in one specific area. What are your thoughts on this,
Well,
Jimmy?
the only thing I would add to that, Tom, is that wisdom sometimes is hard to come by. And it helps, Tom, if you allow yourself to learn in life from mentors who have more wisdom than you and trust in the fact that they've gone through some things that you haven't gone through in life. So when older people are sharing their wisdom with you, don't dismiss it that you guys are old fashioned and you don't know what you're talking about and that's old school and things are different now. Trust me, in life is not that different from generation to generation. The lessons of the ages can get passed down from generation to generation. Be yours to hold it high, Tom. Have the courage to accept it and apply it to life as you go forward. Don't put yourself in position, have to hit your head on the same walls that the previous generations had to go through to learn a lesson and to gain some wisdom. So accept it when it's being handed down to you. And one day you're going to be that person with the wisdom trying to pass it down to the next generation. And you're going to want them to listen to what you have to say.
And let's kind of really break this down to nuts and bolts, Jimmy. There's someone who said that all history is a current event.
Yes,
And what that means is that, when a young person, especially, and parents, if you can develop this in that young man in your life, that's your son, that's your nephew or your grandson or whatever it is, if you teach them a reverence of their elders who've been there, who've done that, who've been on earth 3/4 of a century or so, and they're able to take the counsel of their elders and develop that knowledge and that wisdom and that counsel at a very early age in their 20s and early 30s, Jimmy, they will get so much
yes, Tom,
more
that is
done. They
true.
will be so much more successful in life. And it's not that our elders, because as my mother used to tell me a long time ago, I wasn't born this age. We all made mistakes. But man, if you can prevent making the mistakes that the older folks have seen and
Right.
or have experienced, you will go so much further in life in terms of your family prosperity, in terms of your financial prosperity, in terms of your spiritual
That is true,
development
Tom.
and growth. And that's why it is always recommended that you have a council of elders and or mentors around you to help you navigate the waters.
And Tom, your elders are normally giving you this information for free. It's not like they're asking you to pay for it.
Absolutely.
So when you're getting something for
Absolutely.
free of value, take it. and value it. Don't dismiss it. So what's our next? Oh, let me say this, Tom. For those
Yes,
who are
sir.
watching the show, if you hang on to the very end, we have an announcement to make. Um, so we're going to announce it at the end. It'll be very valuable for yourself and for the young boys that may be in your life. So what's the next principle, T?
All right. A man must know that before he can lead, he must first follow.
I agree with that, Tom. And learn to follow. You know where you first learn, Tom, is at home with your parents. I mean, because they're the first
Mhm.
leaders in your life that you have to follow and learn to respect and listen to. And if you don't value what they have to say, then when you get out on your own, you're not going to want to listen to what society has to say. You're going to break the rules. You're going to think that you're smarter, and you're going to end up failing in life because that's never a winning formula. So, yes, learn to follow, learn the traits of a leader, mimic those from people who do a good job at leading. Hopefully, that means your father and mother in your life are doing a great job at teaching you how to lead, and then you just mimic and do what they're doing. If you see your father and mother working and being responsible, lights not being turned off, food on the table, bills are being paid, they're planning to help you get on in life, you and your siblings, then those are the things you want to mimic, Tom. Those are the things you want to learn from. Even if you don't understand it totally, just do what they're doing because you know what they're doing is the right thing to do.
But also, Jimmy, if you are in a situation, this is maybe talking to those young folks out there, where if you're able to assess that what's going on in your family and your household environment isn't quite reflecting some of those things, that doesn't mean that there are other folks, maybe your grandparents
Right.
and or other elders in your environment or in your life who you can cleave onto and whose lead you can't follow, because quite frankly, Jimmy, it may not always come from your household. The
That's
best
true.
advice may not always apply to what you're doing. Now, that's not to say that you're not supposed to respect your elders. You're always supposed to respect your elders. But sometimes, Jimmy, every environment is not the same for our young people. And
True.
if God has put something into you to say, you know what, you need to continue to learn, it may be outside of the domain of where you are. Always respect your parents, your mother, and your father, but sometimes you have to broaden your horizons. But at the end of the day, the premise is, in order to be a great leader, you must learn to follow first, and that is a foundation principle for any great leader to have. And then we will go to our final principle, Jimmy, which is a man knows when in doubt to always ask God.
Tom, that I take
So,
it
so,
back.
so,
That
so,
may
so,
be
so,
one of the most
so,
important
so,
principles.
so ultimately, Jimmy, we are kind of ending where we started.
Yes. Uh, yes, Tom. Now that we've gotten to the very end, yeah, this may be the most important principle of them all. But yes, when in doubt in life, pray, ask God for guidance. Don't ask for the winning lottery numbers. Don't be selfish. You shouldn't pray for selfish reasons. Pray and ask for wisdom and understanding. Ask God to open doors for you to bring people in your life that can benefit you. And I promise you, everything you pray for, you will receive. And when those doors open, when people come into your life, when good things are happening to you, go with it. Don't be afraid to not walk through the door. If you ask for a better job and the recruiter calls you the next week, pursue it. Don't be don't hang the phone up saying no. I better just stay where I am because I won't take any chances in life. You pray for this. Believe that God's going to open that door and make a way for you. So, prayer time, I'm very big on. God has done so many things in my life. I feel guilty for the number of things and times I've been rescued, knowing that it wasn't me, that there's no way in the world I could have got through it on my own. But I don't worry when things get bad. I mean, there have been times I've been nearly homeless. And, people will say, well, how are you doing? I say, well, I'm not good. I'm just a week from being homeless and we're going to get kicked out of my place and business is bad. And, of course, people don't want to hear that, but I'm just being honest. But and
Yeah,
I can be honest because there's no shame in falling down in life. I know that I have the skills
right.
and the ability to get picked up, but on top of that, I also know that God is only going to let me fall so far. And my failures in life are just a message to say you're not on the right track. You need to reassess some things and get on the right track, and things will work out better for you. So I understand that process. So I don't have to fret over it. I just know I have to make some adjustments in life and do things differently. But God's been a big part of that and will continue to be a big part of it. And I will say to people, everyone who's listening, who will listen in the future from watching the videos, if there's anything you're taking from all of this, this may be the most important one. Make sure that God is with you in life. You keep God in everything that you do, and life will turn out better for you than if you try to go through life by yourself.
I would agree with that, Jimmy, because at the end of the day, I mean, if we kind of keep this very simple, understanding that within us all are the genetics of the first people who were created on Earth. The reality of it is we have a foundation of a relationship, with the great master and with
Right.
God. And at the end of the day, as you begin every day, you should end every day. And that is with praying and with thanking God, Jimmy. And I think you said something a little bit earlier. It's going to be very difficult to lose if you begin and end your day at a minimum, with God and
Correct.
giving him reverence or her reverence for everything that you have.
Well,
It's
I
going to be
believe
very,
God's a
very.
woman now, so
I know you do. I know it, Jimmy. That was another show.
that was another
But if,
show.
if, if we if we begin and end with God over the long term, it's going to be very, very difficult to lose Jimmy. And so there are a lot of things that we've talked about, but we began with God and we ended with God, and everything else obviously, comes in between that, Jimmy. And so that is the last principle that we spoke to, and we're pretty much at the top of the hour. So let's
We
kind of
are.
close everything out. I
Well,
know that you
we
had
got started a little
one
bit
announcement
late.
to make.
Yes, our big announcement for those who waited, and please pass this on to people that you know. We're going to try to do a summit maybe in August. We have to plan it. But we'd like to invite young men, young women to come to watch the show, and maybe we'll expand it out to 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours, and just have a talk about with young people to go over some of these principles and discuss how they can apply some of it to their life. Um, and if these are things they hadn't heard or no one's talked to them about, this will be a chance for them to hear from the people who's Tom. There's not a principle that we've listed that you and I have not personally experienced in life and can talk about with personal stories. So sometimes, hearing that other people have gone through some things in their personal life where that one, they're not just talking, and two, you're not alone because you're going through these things now. So hopefully you can relate. So we're going to do that. That's going to be a special show coming up in August. We just got to plan out, look at our schedules and plan it out. But please, continue to come back, watch the shows, and get more information. And please, by all means, when we announce the date, it'll be a Wednesday show. Please do everything you can to invite the young people that are in your life that you're raising to come join the show because we want to hear from them, Tom.
Absolutely, Jimmy, and that's the reason that we are here. Again, Black Men Speak is a show. Really, you're going to hear the most intelligent and the most incisive information about things that are going on in our community. And of course, we're going to tackle the most important issues and the most complicated issues out there. And so we want to
Correct.
thank you again for joining us today. We hope you've gotten some information that has been useful for you. And of course, join us every Wednesday at 9 o'clock Central Time for Black Men Speak.
Okay, Tom, we're a little over, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and close out with our prayer and let's thank everyone for watching.
All right. We will now bow our heads, dear Lord and gracious Father. We come before you again, thanking you for blessing us to see another day, our health, our strength, our faculties, Father. We thank you for bringing us again together as men and as brothers, Father. We thank you for ordering our steps and talking through our voice to those out there who need to hear a word, Father, from you, to hear some inspiration, hear guidance, Father. We ask you continue to navigate us through the steps that you would help ensure folk that we are focused on the things that you would have us to do. We ask, Father, that you would help those who need help, that you would guide those who need guidance, Father. We help that you would give an inspiring word to those who need to hear an inspiring word from you. Father, and all of these things we pray, and in your precious name we continue to serve as always. Amen.
Amen, Tom. Good job. And I guess it's that time. I want to thank everyone for watching tonight. Please come back every Wednesday, 9 o'clock Central Time. And there's our
All
music,
right, folks, we'll
Tom.
see you next week.